Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and sorry, Nova's going to be tapping around on the hardwood floor in here, so he's going to be making a little bit of noise, but that's okay, he's up and about playing. So today I thought I would chat with you guys a little bit about squats and deadlifts for teenagers, stunning height, all of that stuff, because this is a big myth we hear all the time out there. And the reality is it's actually not only not true, it's actually a detrimental myth to be floating around. So let me put on my +5 out of weaponsmithing, work on skill at my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this because that's one of the things that everyone who trains always says later on in life, that they wish they had trained harder or started sooner as a teenager. And what you see, a lot of the guys who have these amazing bench presses oftentimes started benching heavy in their teens, right? But then maybe their squat and deadlift and stuff lag. And I mean, there's a few people out there who, like some natties that I point out, and a lot of people are like, dude, they've got to be fake natties, like Devin Palumbo and Nico Ella, guys who I know and talk to a lot. But they started early in their teens. These are guys who started at a very young age with heavy training, and that made an enormous difference in terms of where they are now. And we also know that things like bone density and stuff, the sooner you start training, the more you benefit from that. In other words, the later in life that we start doing resistance training, again, heavier structural loading exercises, the less benefit we get. And it's not to say you don't. I mean, if you start lifting at 60 years old, it's going to help with your bone density. But if you start doing it at a much, much younger age, it's actually considerably better. And that's one of the problems we've run into, and it's a myth that was started and it's been popularized largely because a lot of teenagers, and I'm not trying to be mean, I was a teenager myself. Teenagers tend to be lazy, and a lot of teenagers are like, I'm not lazy. Well, most of you are. You might think you're not, but compared to adults, you probably are, and it's because teenagers, their brains aren't fully developed. They don't fully focus and put discipline into things as much usually. Now, are there exceptions to the rule? Absolutely. But getting under a heavy barbell and doing heavy squats, heavy deadlifts, heavy standing presses, these big structural loading exercises, they're hard. They're not as much fun. And so you're going to have teenagers who are like, they'd rather not do that. They would rather just work on their chest and arms. And they don't want to necessarily do the squats and the deadlifts and everything. And so when you hear myths that come out that, oh yeah, it could stunt your growth, like it could stop you from growing, right? It can stop you from growing. That works really well with their preconceived notions, and they're not wanting to do those exercises. So it gets spread really easily. Well, the truth is, it's not true. Well, you need to remember, when you start looking at things like bone mineral density, we know that load-bearing exercises improve bone mineral density. And you guys saw my DEXA scans. Like I have bone mineral density that's almost off the chart, and it's from years and years of heavy strength training. Has made an enormous difference there. So I'm not going to have to worry about things like osteoporosis and stuff. And so when you really look at it from that perspective, it's like, wait a minute. If heavy lifting makes your bones healthier, it makes your spine healthier, it makes your hips healthier, it makes your femurs healthier. All these bones, by loading them up with heavy weight, if it makes them healthier and last longer later in life, which means you lose height more slowly, because we all lose height over the years, but having more bone density will actually be protective against losing height with age, right? It's a big factor. When you think of it from that perspective, it's like, wait a minute, how's that going to damage the bones of teenagers? It's not. Well, actually it will, but it damages it in a good way. It's an adaptative stress. In other words, the reason we get improved bone density from resistance training is that it forms little microfractures, little cracks through the bones. And the body responds by pumping more minerals into those cracks and pumping minerals into the bones, basically, magnesium, calcium, all this stuff that makes your bones denser. It makes your bones stronger. So stop and think about that from the perspective of a growing teenager. The heavy lifting done correctly and with proper training could actually facilitate better bone development. I mean, hypothetically, a best case scenario, because it's improving things like nutrients to the bones, it's actually causing an influx of bone minerals while you're still developing. What are your bones made out of? They're made out of these bone minerals. So you're subjecting your spine and legs and everything to an adaptative stress that makes your body put more more mass into there. It's like gains for your bones. It's putting more of the substance into your bones that they're made out of, right? That could actually help lead to reaching your better overall height potential, right? Furthermore, if you're training hard, you're probably going to eat more food. You're probably going to get more nutrition in. Well, what do we know as far as nutrition and height goes? We know that nutrition plays a big role, that malnutrition actually causes people to not develop their full height. In fact, I'd say it's one of the biggest things that causes height concerns in teenagers who train. It's going to be too much cutting, doing too much weight loss, right? Cutting down and malnourishing yourself, trying to get a deep six-pack. Right, that can be problematic. That could actually potentially stunt your growth. But if you're training and lifting weights and all of a sudden because you're lifting hard, you're doing big exercises like squats and deadlifts, if you all of a sudden over time need another 700 or 800 calories a day, that's going to be another 700 or 800 calories with more potential for more calcium, more magnesium, just more vitamins and minerals and things into your diet coming from foods. All right, that actually can give you the reverse effect of malnourishment. So actually eating more food, doing big heavy lifts could in theory help a teenager reach their maximum height potential more easily. It might actually help them reach their full potential because most people don't necessarily reach their full genetic potential for height. And again, malnourishment and things and disease and everything affect all of that. But it could actually benefit them. It could benefit them in this regard. And the things that actually are the highest risk that we see as far as bodybuilding type stuff that you see is the biggest risk for teenagers are going to be too much dieting, cutting down, and some anabolics, right? Yeah, we need to talk about that one, right? All these teenagers, a lot of them are, I don't want to do squats and deadlifts. It might cost me an inch of my height. But then, some of them will go eat a handful of Debo. They'll do a cycle of Debo. You guys see the problem there? Debo could stunt your potential height. Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, Arnold Schwarzenegger was over 6 foot and he did it as a teenager. Yeah, he did. He admitted to it. He used Debo as a teenager. But how do you know he might not have been 2 inches taller had he not done it? You got to keep in mind, look at the people he comes from. That's a pretty tall people. He comes from a pretty tall family line. He might have been another inch taller had he not done that Debo. Now, he obviously wouldn't have been the bodybuilder that he was later, and he wouldn't have been the movie star and everything else that he was later. But the fact of the matter remains, that's actually a risk for stunting your growth. Cutting down, using anabolic drugs, those are a risk. Training, eating more food, no, absolutely not. Getting under a heavy barbell, no, that's going to facilitate adaptive stress. It's going to make your bones stronger and healthier. Well, stronger, healthier bones grow better. Shouldn't be too difficult to figure out there. But it's crazy how we have all these myths. And the thing is that if you can get teenagers to get rid of this myth and to get them under a heavy squat bar and start doing the big structural loading exercises, they're going to be so much better later in life than if they wait till they're 24, 25 to start doing them. Then people who start training in their teens, tons of those guys, when you get older, you start realizing, man, I wish I had dedicated, I started working out or started doing some training. Why didn't I do the real stuff, the good stuff when I was younger? I'd be so much further along. A lot of people do that. You talk about regrets that people have. Well, people who get into lifting very frequently regret that. Man, why didn't I start doing deadlifts 5 years sooner? Why didn't I start squatting 5 years sooner? How much further along would I be now? All right, that's a good thing, guys. And you might look at it right now and say, well, I just want to lift or whatever. I just want better biceps. I was trying to get a six-pack to get girls. But you're already putting in the time training. You need to look at the long term and say, hey, but maybe if I do all this stuff, I see all these older guys saying they wish they had started doing this when they were my age. You see how many guys out there say that? Hell, maybe I've said that. Stop and think about that. You're already going to go to the gym. You're already working out. Do the good stuff, man. You're not going to regret it. You're going to not have to deal with a lot of those regrets other guys have. You're going to be better off because your goals are going to change later. You're already at the gym. Go ahead and get the benefit. And you know what? You're going to have better lifelong outcomes from it because we know heavy back and leg exercises reduce cancer rates. They reduce diabetes rates. They stop osteoporosis, all this other stuff. This could be your key to fighting cancer later in life, to just go ahead and get under that heavy. Do those squats now. Start learning to squat correctly when you're 16. It's fine. It's fine. It's going to do nothing but help you later in life. You're going to be better off for it. You're going to be better off for it. Don't let a silly internet myth that's not based on reality stop you from reaching your potential. You might end up being a half-inch taller as a result of doing the squats. Yeah? You're going to end up having lower cancer rates. You're going to be stronger. You're going to be fitter. You're going to have an advantage. Like, you're going to have such an edge on other people later on in life. If you're already at the gym training and you go ahead and start doing that stuff now, you're going to have an advantage over other people, because the majority of us didn't start later. I didn't start lifting until I was in my early 20s. Like, before that, I was doing distance running. You're going to have an advantage on us. If you're already going to go to the gym, man, do squats, do deadlifts, do standing presses. Learn to do them correctly with good form. Get strong on that stuff. It's going to give you an edge. Go ahead and just take advantage of it. You're not going to regret it. Trust me on this. And trust me, it's not going to make you shorter. It's not something you need to worry about. It's a complete silly internet myth. But like I said, if you're worried about stunting your growth, what you need to do is avoid anabolic steroids. And you need to avoid trying to get too ripped and cutting down too lean by restricting your food too much. That's your two big. Those are much, much, much bigger risks. And those are actually real risks. Those are real concerns. Getting under a heavy squat bar is not. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.